May is upon us, and that means a bunch of new games are upon us. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the top 8 new games of May 2022. Starting off with number 8, it's Trek to Yomi. Now this is a really interesting looking title. You don't see a lot of full black and white games, and we're getting that for a very specific reason. This is a samurai game that's intended to be presented very cinematically. And in a lot of ways, it reminds me of kind of what I thought 3D video games would look like before we really saw 3D video games. Like, it's a hack and slash adventure, kind of 2.5D, but sometimes 3D stylized experience. And in truth, it looks like it's probably just a massive amount of fun. But further than that, I kind of like the idea that this kind of 3D, this cinematic, kind of fixed camera, stylistic, visual-oriented type of gameplay is getting some attention, because it's a game that a lot of people are talking about more than I would have expected. And that's partly because I think Devolver Digital is the publisher and they've got a pretty big publicity arm at this point. But I also think part of it is that the potential of this game, if it pans out, is one that could really have a big influence on not just samurai games, but hack and slash games in general. It looks as though it's taking a slightly more artful approach, however, without sacrificing any of the fun gameplay. Like, the combat looks absolutely enjoyable. So I've got my fingers crossed on this one. Trek to Yomi comes out on PC, the PlayStations, and the Xboxes on May 5th. At number 7 is My Time at Sandrock, which comes to us from the developers of My Time at Portia, Pathia Games, and looks to sort of continue that series. Now, Portia was looked at as sort of an alternative to Stardew Valley, which was 3D, added a little bit more in the way of combat mechanics, etc., and is regarded to be a pretty good game. My Time at Sandrock is a sort of desert version of this. In some ways, it feels like it takes on the character of a Wild West city builder, except for there's so much more to it. It also clearly retains the Ghibli-inspired aesthetic of the first, but expands on that as well. These games are fun because they take place 300 years after an apocalypse where modern technology is basically destroyed, and it feels a lot like a sort of self-aware, industrial revolution, action-adventure farm city sim, at least from how it looks to me. I think it looks like a tremendously fun game. The other one is a lot of fun, although I will say my experience with it is a little limited. It's one that I put a little bit of time into, and I do think, at least based on my experience with it, that it earned its reputation as a really good alternative to Stardew Valley. I'm excited for this one because it looks like they've expanded a lot of the systems, and that's not to say the previous one had limited systems, it certainly didn't, but it almost looks like it's attempting to go further in terms of what it is to separate itself from Stardew Valley some, and I really like to see that. My Time at Sandrock is coming to PC, early access, May 26th. And number 6 is Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, a reboot of 1998's Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate. Now, the whole point of this one is that there is a plague that is going to be unleashed unless you find it, purge it, and stop the plan in what they're calling a cinematic, story-driven, fast-paced, turn-based tactical RPG. Now, beyond what you'll be doing in your turn-based tactical activities, you have a base of operations you'll have to be building new facilities and upgrading on. There's a research component to this game, and it's another game where the choices that you make are going to have large effects on the actual world. Some planets will actually end up falling to the plague, depending on your choices. And for all intents and purposes, this looks like a pretty fun sort of fantasy sci-fi tactical RPG. I'm interested in it. I love the aesthetic. I think they've done a really good job rendering the Warhammer 40k universe in a way that's visually interesting, and I'll certainly give Demon Hunters a try when it arrives on PC May 5th. And number 5 is Salt and Sacrifice, a follow-up to a 5-year-old game called Salt and Sanctuary, developed by Ska Studios, a game that essentially works to adapt the Souls formula to a 2D game. The original is extremely well liked by a certain cult following, and it refines the combat of the original, which is a little more simple than the 3D Dark Souls type games. You can definitely see the type of Bloodborne influence on it, although I'd even characterize the combat as a little simpler than that. Given the updates in a lot of games that we've seen over the last couple of years, they've also added a grappling hook, which is usually a mechanic that works better in 2D. So between that and the otherwise great and probably tighter combat built on the originals, Salt and Sacrifice should shape up to be a pretty darn good side-scrolling action RPG. It's coming May 10th to PS4, PS5, and PC. At number 4 is MX vs. ATV Legends, the latest in the MX vs. ATV series. Basically, it's an off-road racing game. The whole idea is to become a professional off-road rider, where the better you play, the more fans you get, the more sponsors you get, etc., etc. There's a career mode, there's online multiplayer, there's also local multiplayer, which is nice. This is the kind of game that I do enjoy in kind of a two-player split-screen situation. It kind of takes me back to the Nintendo 64. This is a series that's always had some pretty good track design. Between the two-wheelers and the four-wheelers, it's just a hell of a lot of fun. MX vs. ATV Legends lands on PC, the PlayStations, and the Xboxes May 24th. At number 3 is Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song, a really different take on Vampire the Masquerade than the straight-up Bloodlines sequel we're still waiting for, which got delayed last year and we have no idea when we will be seeing it. Swan Song is kind of a combination between a CRPG and a detective game, and it's more dialogue-based than anything else. I mean, you'll still be feeding on humans to maintain your form during the course of the investigations, because obviously if you don't maintain your form, you will pretty much blow the entire thing. But while this game probably won't satisfy the urge that game is meant to, it does seem like there's a large amount of depth that developer Big Bad Wolf just really wants to mine. And I think that that's great because there is a whole lot of lore from the tabletop game, World of Darkness, on which all the Vampire the Masquerade games are based, that I think really does lend itself towards the type of game that they're attempting to make here. You've got 3 different protagonists, you're going to be doing some character building. It's not just like a Telltale game or an Ace Attorney game. It really looks like its own sort of thing. And that's exciting. I love detective games. I love seeing the different variations on the genre, and to see one set in the Vampire the Masquerade world, I'm very much there for it. Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song comes out on PC, the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and Switch on May 19th. And number 2 is Evil Dead the Game, a game that has given us a lot of different things to chew on during the course of its development and gradual revealing of itself. The first time we saw it, we thought, oh, this looks like a Left 4 Dead type game. Then it was gradually revealed it's kind of an asymmetrical Dead by Daylight type game, and as more time has passed, it has gradually become obvious that it is both. It's both of these things, and I love that. That's actually exactly what it should be. Not only do you get the opportunity to do co-op modes and engage in different maps with big battles, there's also PvPvE modes. There's the ability to play as a Condrian demon and basically set up all of the problems and traps and pitfalls and entanglements that players will get into on the map. In all seriousness, this is a game with a ton of potential. I think that the way that they've shown it to us too has been really good because it's made us think about all of the different types of stuff that the various things they've shown us evoke. So we kind of know this is going to be a varied gameplay experience, and that's frankly exactly what I want out of it. Part of the problem of Dead by Daylight was that sometimes it could feel a little repetitive, and it looks like they're attempting to build beyond that model and give us something that works for a single player experience, works as a co-op experience, works as a competitive experience, and I like the sound of that. If this pans out, this is going to be, I think, the thing that really accomplishes what this developer has been trying to do for so long, and I'm really excited to play Evil Dead the Game when it comes out on PC, the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and Switch on May 13th. And finally, at number 1 is Sniper Elite 5. The genre-bending series lands a new entry that looks better than ever as you take on the sniping and third-person combat that takes place in France in 1944. But it's not just sniping that this series is known for. The land traversal and detailed environments that entails are all here as well. There's also drop-in PvP as well as co-op. And of course, the Mortal Kombat-like kill cam. The slow-motion X-ray, excruciatingly detailed death sequences that simultaneously make a kill both grisly as well as very satisfying. In all seriousness, this is a series that has only gotten better and better throughout its existence. It's won many awards for many good reasons, and this looks to be the most detailed, in-depth version of a world to drop you in to perform long-range kills that they've cooked picked up yet. It's really a good looking game from a series that has never disappointed, always delivered. There's no reason to assume this is going to be anything other than a great entry in the Sniper Elite franchise. I enjoy these games. I think you will too, especially if you've played previous ones and enjoyed them. Sniper Elite 5 is coming to PC, ps5, Xbox Series X, ps4, and Xbox One on May 26th. Couple of bonus games for you. Deliver Us to the Moon first, a kind of science fiction thriller adventure puzzle mishmash that tells an interesting story in some seemingly abandoned facilities on the moon, hoping to find a resource to end an energy crisis on Earth. Now, this game's a couple years old. It came out first on Windows back in 2018, came to PS4 and Xbox One back in 2020, and we'll be seeing a next-gen port here on May 19th on both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. Finally, it's Green Hell VR, a port of the survival game Green Hell from Incuvo, people who have done very good VR ports of various other games, introducing a lot of good motion controls to games that were otherwise not designed for motion controls, and we have every reason to assume that's exactly what the case is going to be here. Green Hell is, of course, a great survival game. Green Hell VR is launching on Steam VR, not sure exactly of the date, but sometime during the month. That's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on Game Ranks.